both of these assets create very positive cash flow, and our guidance shows that, and our earnings show that. We have a positive cash balance, so we're going to have enough capital to plow back into the business, so we're going to keep these assets in good standing. And the exploration budget, just wait. 40,000 meters of drilling is going to generate a lot of new ounces.
Calibre Mining Corp is a client and sponsor of PinnacleDigest.com, whose parent company owns shares of Calibre Mining Corp. Please read the full disclosure at the end of this video.
I'm coming to you from Managua, the historic capital of Nicaragua, a diversely populated metropolis, home to over 1 million people. Barely here for 24 hours, and I've already been welcomed to this beautiful Central American country by its friendly and patriotic people, warm weather, and stunning cathedrals. Nicaragua is a bicoastal nation with a warm climate, beautiful beaches, and mountainous passes, including a stunning volcanic belt, which hosts the Masaya Volcano National Park. The national population sits around 6 million, with nearly 90% living along the southwestern portion, near the Pacific, leaving much of Nicaragua rural. The country's economy is heavily reliant on agriculture, mining, construction, and fisheries. Top exports include insulated wire, coffee, beef, tobacco, and the reason I'm here, gold. According to the OEC, gold accounts for about 8% of the nation's exports. To that point, there's an environmentally responsible Canadian-based mining company, which in the fall of 2019 closed on an equity financing of just over 100 million Canadian that has recently become Nicaragua's largest producer and exporter of gold. This TSX-listed gold producer and explorer is known as Calibre Mining. Calibre is led by a team that has created significant value for shareholders in previous executive leadership roles. Cumulatively, they have sold 7 mining companies for a combined value of roughly $5 billion US. Here for the better part of a week, I'm going to take you, the viewer at home, on a tour of Calibre's gold mining operations, while learning about the company's exploration objectives and the potential for what lies beneath. About 100 kilometers northwest of Managua is Calibre's Limon mine, the first of its 2 producing gold mines we're going to be visiting. 2020 production guidance for Limon was in the range of 70 to 75,000 ounces of gold. Adding to the intrigue of this asset is its discovery and expansion potential. Darren, we've arrived at Limon. I think it would be helpful if we started off with your background.
I've got about 35 years of experience across the industry. I've had the privilege to work in a number of different continents. I spent the first 25, 30 years of my career with Limon, working around the planet, which ultimately ended up looking after their business in Asia Pacific.
How many people were you managing in that role?
In total, about 14,000 people were under my jurisdiction, which represented about 35–40% of Newmont's EBITDA and total production. So it's a fairly expansive role, spread over 8 operations, 3 countries, Australia, New Zealand, and Indonesia.
And what made you guys want to pull the trigger on this asset? We talked about B2Gold's core and non-core assets. How did that all come about, and what's your kind of theory with these assets moving forward?
Yeah, no, I look at what B2Gold have done with these assets over the last decade, and it's been amazing, right? If you look at what B2Gold was and what it's grown into now is a $4+ billion organisation. That was born on the backs of the work that was done here at Limon and Libertad. So they've been very successful. But as they've grown, their focus has shifted to other more productive parts of the world. So that provides an opportunity for someone to come in like us and partner with B2Gold, use our experience, our capital, to be able to look at where the opportunities may sit within these assets. And as part of that, it truly is a partnership. Because out of this transaction, B2Gold are our single largest shareholder. They currently have a 34% equity interest in Calibre. Yeah. So, they haven't fallen out of love with the assets. Absolutely to the contrary. Well, they still love the assets, but their human capital focus is stretched because of everything they've got happening globally. So they want to participate, so they've done a very smart thing by partnering with us to look at developing these assets, and they maintain the upside potential.
Can you talk about the production at Limon in 2018 and the exploration upside you think may exist?
There was a pivotal year in 2018. In 2017 is when El Limon Central was rediscovered. It was a historical mining camp situated, as you can see, it's very close to the mill.
Yeah.
Right, very close, 150 meters from one end of the pit to the mill. Yeah, that was a pivotal point for Limon, right? So during 2018, that facility was permitted and then came into production in 2019. Look at 2019, full year production out of Limon, which a significant portion is going to come from our Limon Central open pit. We're looking at guiding just over 60 to 65,000 ounces for the full year production. Step back, B2 Gold guided 55 to 60,000 ounces for full year production. We took ownership of the assets on October 15th. We went out with guidance for the stub quarter, October 15th through December 31st of 14 to 17,000 ounces. We're absolutely on track to deliver that, which will provide a consolidated full year estimate, in likelihood 60 to 65,000 ounces.
For 2019?
For 2019.
So how does that position you guys for 2020?
Off the back of a very successful 2019, where we're looking at 60 to 65,000 ounces. We've just recently guided 2020 production of 70 to 75,000 ounces. And that's predicated on the back of a fixed plant capacity at 500,000 tonnes, but increasing grades, predominantly coming out of our Limon Central.
Let's talk about the grade and the geological upside that you guys believe, exists here.
What we've seen very positive performance in 2019. If we look at what B2 Gold guided, we've exceeded performance in that space out of Limon grades. Going forward, we anticipate that to continue, and we've always anticipated improving grades with depth.
Yeah.
What you find when you look at a long section through the deposit, you see that the drilling basically ended in grade. So there's extensions both down dip and along strike, and that's where the majority of our exploration focus is in 2020.
Right.
It's less about converting resources into reserves, it's more about extending and understanding what could exist at Limon Central. So then we can take a more holistic view of the property and say, scope and scale, what should we be doing with this property in the medium longer term?
Yeah. Are you guys talking about the potential mine life right now? And I mean, this is all adding into it to try to extend it, obviously. But where does it stand right now? And is that something you want to talk about?
Yeah, no, absolutely. If we look at what we have in reserve versus what we have in inventory, pretty comfortably there's 5 to 10 years as currently defined. Now, extending that is going to be our focus in 2020. And that leads back to our previous discussion in and about scope and scale. When we look at this plant over here, it performs extremely well, but it's undersized for the size of the asset that we see going forward. Right. So understanding what that could look like then allows us to do the optionality studies during 2020 to say, should we be looking at a material mill expansion? There will be opportunity to do some minor increment changes in the mill, but should we be looking at a new facility, doubling capacity? What would make sense from an asset perspective going forward?
Production numbers aside, what have the all-in sustaining costs been coming in at lately?
We look at 2019, absolutely on point to be able to deliver positively with respect to what B2 Gold guided at just over $1,000 an ounce.
Okay.
We're looking at 2020. We've recently just issued 2020 guidance, which is in the public domain, and very comfortable that we're going to see all-in sustaining costs at well below $1,000 an ounce. And that's with a significant level of investment front-end loaded. We look at 2020, there's probably $100 an ounce that'll be spent on investment capital vis-a-vis exploration drilling and tails dam expansions in the first half of the year.
So much of Calibre's story is about its discovery and expansion potential. To learn more about that, I'm going to be talking with Mark Cianci, Calibre's exploration manager. With respect to Limon, how much of the asset has been drilled?
Currently, along the 2.5 kilometer strike length, it's probably drilled to about 50%, and to a depth of about 250 meters. To the northwest, there's plenty of room for expansion.
Let's talk about some of those high-grade drill results from Limon Central and Norte.
Yes, very strong mineralization over long vein widths, high grade, so plus 25 meter vein intervals, and over 10 grams per ton. I would rank it as in the top 98th percentile in the world in terms of low sulfidation deposit. It's a very strong system.
Can you give investors sort of an idea of the overall exploration strategy for Calibre? You've got 2 producing mines, but what's the plan going forward from next?
The focus will be to run a limited drill program here at Limon in terms of specifically focusing on expansion of the current resources, but our primary focus will be at La Libertad this upcoming year in 2020. We have over 25,000 meters planned for La Libertad. Our focus will be on both expansion of the existing resources and new discoveries.
We're committing to upgrading and installing potable water supplies at Santo Domingo, La Libertad and Limon. And each of those programs is about $900,000 at Libertad and Santo Domingo and about $900,000 at Limon, right? And it's critical infrastructure that the community require, right? If you can't provide what the communities need as a fundamental right to exist, if you can't help them in that space, how can you really engage them in a positive way? we'll look at developing some eco-farming on our reclaimed lands, but make that land available for the people who don't have land to be able to benefit from. Right, some of those sort of programs. Look at things a little bit differently.
Today we're off to Calibre's other producing gold mine known as La Libertad, an open pit and underground operation. The mine site has a processing plant with capacity of approximately 2.2 million tons per year. Combined with Limon, Calibre's 2020 consolidated production guidance is roughly 140 to 150,000 ounces of gold. We're meeting with company director, Douglas Hurst. Doug, the last time I saw you, we were in Nevada. That company was bought out shortly thereafter.
Yep.
You've been on a bit of a hot streak the last 10 years. First international royalties, new market, Northern Empire. What's brought you to Nicaragua? Why are you here?
That's the core management that came from Newmarket is at Calibre. We've also added a few extra really qualified people, and it was a great group to work with.
When we look at La Libertad, what capacity is that right now? Can you guys scale up, and where does it go in 2020 and beyond?
Yeah, La Libertad, now that we've just bought these assets, we're starting to get our head around them. The first thing that we did was that we choked back the capacity a little bit, just so that we could manage the process a little better. So the mill is running about 1.4 million tons a year right now, but if we bring on that other crushing line, it can go up to 2.5 million tons a year. So there's lots of excess capacity. But by choking it back to 1.3 or 1.4 million tons, we can manage production a little easier with the ounces that we do have.
Looking at your current resources and into the future from an exploration standpoint, what are you guys hoping to do?
So the easiest answer is just looking at the exploration budget.
Yeah.
Limon is going to have about $3 million of drilling this year, and La Libertad is going to have about 10. So this is our focus. Because the mill can be expanded, we want to be able to add as many ounces as we can through the drill rig.
Just to give investors more perspective, $10 million, that's a lot of money. How many meters is that going to get you in drilling?
Yeah, that'll be about 40,000 meters of diamond drilling. And what we'll be testing a mix of targets, some targets that are close to the mill, close to production, but we'll also be starting to test targets that have never been tested before.
For speculators, Doug, and investors looking to put risk capital to work in the gold sector, why look at Calibre when you look at the entire story? Why should investors be looking at Calibre now in January 2020?
Well, they should be looking at Calibre for a couple of reasons. The best conservative reason is that both of these assets create very positive cash flow, and our guidance shows that, and our earnings show that. We have a positive cash balance, so we're going to have enough capital to plow back into the business, so we're going to keep these assets in good standing. And the exploration budget, just wait. 40,000 meters of drilling is going to generate a lot of new ounces.
It's been a pleasure, Doug. Thanks for meeting with us.
Very good, thanks.
Darren, with respect to Pavon, talk about how does that project fit into the Calibre story?
I mean, we're lucky enough just to recently release a revised resource there for Pavon, and it was an over 300% increase in resource. Previously B2 Gold had gone out public with a resource of around 75,000 ounces, and we recently increased that without any additional drilling to 270,000 ounces. So we see, huge upside potential there. And what's really exciting about that is the additional resource that we released was about an 8-gram sort of material in Pavon Central.
Very high grade.
Yeah, very high grade. So huge leverage on the open capacity we have here at Libertad.
Yeah.
Right?
And with respect to the budget, are you guys going to be continuing to drill Pavon?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll recommence drilling. Within the plans for this year, we have about 15,000 meters earmarked to drill Pavon. And that drilling will probably commence in late Q2, early Q3.
Excellent. Darren, thanks for meeting with us. It's been a pleasure. Good luck.
Appreciate it very much. Thanks, Alex. Cheers.
My time in Nicaragua has been memorable, thanks to the hospitality of the locals and Calibre's management team. Led by an experienced team with several buyouts under their belts, Calibre was able to raise just over 100 million Canadian in the fall, enabling it to pursue an ambitious 2020 gold mining and exploration plan.